Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Adam here with Indie Farm Life. Today I'm going to walk you guys through how to change the oil in a lawnmower. I have here today a Grasshopper 721D zero-turn lawnmower. But before we dive into things, I want to note that this process is the same for nearly every lawnmower on the market. So don't see this zero-turn and think this doesn't apply to you. So if you have a push mower, a riding mower, or a zero-turn like this and don't know where to start, this video is for you. In reality, the only thing that makes an oil change different from one lawnmower to the next is the location of the drain plug and the oil filter, the type of oil filter you're going to use, the type of oil you're going to use, and the quantity of oil you're going to use. Aside from that, the process is nearly identical in every machine. You're going to want to warm up the mower to make the oil flow a little easier, locate your drain plug, and drain the oil into a bucket or an oil drain pan. Spin off the old oil filter, and I have some wrenches I'll show you that you might need. Put the new oil filter on, and when you do, lubricate the O-ring on the oil filter. Make sure that that's tight, and then fill it back up. I'll show you what I'm going to use in this Grasshopper 721D, which has the Kubota 3-cylinder diesel engine in it. But for you personally, check your manual. If you don't have a manual, pull the make and model of your mower and jump online. You'll easily be able to find the filter you need, the oil you need, the quantity of oil you need. So a few items of note on the Grasshopper, and you're going to want to find these same things on your machine before you start. Up top here is where you fill it with oil. Over here on the side is the oil filter, and just to the right of it we have a dipstick here. You can pull out and check your oil level, which we'll do here in a little bit. The dipstick on your machine may look a lot different than this, especially if you're talking about a push mower. It may just be a little stick on top of the plastic cap that goes on there. The drain plug is often found on the underside of the motor, and in this case it's kind of tough to see. It's right there. I say oftentimes because on some machines they'll put the drain plug in a really precarious location, which I'll show you an example of. Here's a snowblower I have, and this right here is the drain port for the oil on it. So you can see it's not facing down. So when you drain the oil out of this, you gotta crack this open and lean it back. I used to have another lawnmower at one point that just had a drain plug kind of coming out of the side right here and ran onto the metal. So that's fun. You got to get creative with how you catch that oil. The oil I'm going to be using is Shell T4 Rotella 15W40. Like I said before, this is a diesel motor, so you have to have diesel engine oil. Make note of that if you're using a gasoline engine to not use oil like this. And this is not the quantity of oil it needs. This is a 2.5 gallon pail. It only takes a little over 3.5 quarts, I believe. And then the oil filter is right here. I'll put a link to this and some other things on my Amazon storefront in case you guys out there have a 721D and you want to snatch up some of these filters. Like I said, the first thing to do is to start the motor on your machine and let it warm up for a little bit. All right, I just turned off the mower. You don't have to let it run for very long. I mean, you don't need to take it out and work it like you were mowing the lawn with it, but just 5 or 10 minutes to make sure that things are warm. A couple other things you might need, or will need. Socket set or wrench. I would typically use a wrench so that I don't drop the socket in the oil bucket, but my wrenches are in the barn. Maybe some shop towels, glove, latex glove if you want to keep your hands clean. I typically don't. And then an ice cream bucket, because ice cream buckets are important for oil changes. At least that's what I'm using. So we'll slide this under here. Yeah, so there's the drain plug. Ice cream bucket under here. And I put a piece of cardboard underneath the bucket just because there's always a good chance that oil is going to somehow make its way outside of that bucket. It also helps, guys, if you put your wrench in reverse on your drive. Oh, whew. Shoe's tight. So this is far and away the biggest pain of your oil change. Like I said, I'm prone to dropping either the socket or plug itself into the oil. So let's see if we can't not do that for you guys today. Oh, she's flowing. Now, as far as getting rid of the oil, I believe AutoZone and Napa, places like that, O'Reilly will recycle it for you. I don't know if I have to pay a fee or not. Or some people have waste oil heaters. You can, use it to heat your garage or whatnot with. So there's options. Or maybe you might use it as a bit of a fire starter. Here's the drain plug. When you take it off, be careful. A lot of times there's a metal washer. You can see that right there. That's a copper maybe. But don't lose that whenever you take your drain plug out. There always won't be one, but a lot of times there is. So just make sure you don't lose that piece of the drain plug. And then also something to look for when you open up your drain plug is just take a peek, see if you see any kind of metal shavings on top of that plug. You're not likely going to, but if you've been having some engine trouble or whatnot, the presence of some metal shavings on top of that would mean you got some problems in your engine. Loose metal, not good. All right, so we'll let that sit there and drain for a little bit. It's pretty well done. What I always like to do is just leave that bucket there and leave it open while I crack off the oil filter, which is that guy right there. It also just dawned on me that some of you out there may not have an oil filter on your machine, especially like a push mower or something a little smaller. So if you're looking all over and you can't find an oil filter, don't fret, you may not have one. And here are the wrenches that I had mentioned that can come in handy. This one actually needs to have a screw put back in it, but basically you use these to wrap around the canister to help give you a little leverage. They make other kinds, but I like these because they're flexible. I can get in tight spaces. I have a video of me using these on the tractor that I can link at the end of the video. But it looks like this one's actually I can get by hand, which is nice because it's really tight location. Yep, when I crack this open, you are going to lose some oil, so I didn't move the bucket, but I put the cardboard over there anyway. Probably need to move the bucket though, because it's running pretty good. When I opened that up, the air through the system did allow oil to come out the drain plug hole a little bit more, so there's your nasty, trashy old oil filter. That might be NA for whatever machine you have. I always then take a shop rag and clean around the filter itself. I should have done this before I spun it off actually, so take note of that. It's always a good idea to clean around the filter before you spin it off, just so nothing, no contaminants can get into your system. Just for fun, here we'll pull the dipstick so you can see that there's no oil in the system, just some remnants before, but stick this back down in there and you'll see that it's completely dry. And I just thought of something I was going to tell you guys. See? So one thing I wanted to mention was when you're working on your machine like this and you're taking the oil out of the system, it's very vulnerable at this point if it were to start and your engine's going to seize. So take the key out of the ignition, and if you really want to be cautious, disconnect the negative terminal on the battery. I'm working by myself. I'm home alone today. There's no kids around. No one is going to turn the ignition over other than myself. But let's say you were working and you drain the oil and you got to go inside for something or take a phone call, and a kid walks over and they just start cranking the motor because, hey, it's Dad's lawnmower, I love it, and there's no oil in the system. Bad news. So, point of caution there. All right, now that the oil is drained out of the system, I'm gonna put the drain plug back in. So I gotta move my messy bucket here. Just gotta put the drain plug back in, tighten her down. Now when you tighten it, don't go crazy. You don't wanna be stripping threads out of this thing or out of your oil pan. So get it snug with your fingers, maybe a quarter turn or so, but don't go crazy. You'll notice I had my glove on to start and now I don't. But here's where the oil filter spins on. You can see it's threaded right there, just so it spins on just like a normal nut would. So here's the new filter. And one important thing to do before you spin this on is to take some clean oil and lubricate this O-ring. I don't know if you can tell from this or not, but this is on the edge here, this is a rubber O-ring all around there. So any filter you pick up, it's gonna have that on there, and just rub a little oil on there. And do as I say, not as I do. Probably should be wearing gloves throughout all this, but with camera equipment and whatnot, they just become a pain. So I just dip my finger in the bucket of oil and just lightly lubricate this. And then we thread it on there. I was able to get that pretty tight with my hands. An issue with you get much more leverage with this thing than you can just your hands. And the last step of the process is to fill it up. Got the plug back in the bottom, got the new filter on, fill it with oil, make sure it's full, and we're done. I wasn't kidding when I told you guys that, hey, this is a pretty easy process, so if any of you out there are intimidated, don't be. And what's crazy is you can do this on a lawnmower, you can do it on a car. Well, any car that's not foreign made, really. Same process. You're literally just taking oil out of the machine, putting on a new filter, putting it right back in. The foreign makes of vehicles, some like Mercedes and some of the other foreign vehicles, you actually have to suck the oil out of the engine. It's a little bit different design, but not with these guys. You know, some of you guys who frequently watch my channel might be wondering why I'm doing such a video, but you know, this might seem like common knowledge to a lot of the people that follow the channel or have property and, you know, in rural settings where they have to do these kind of things. But before I moved to the farm, as I like to call it, lived in a subdivision, and there were a lot of folks who didn't know how to do this or had questions for me about sharpening lawnmower blades or changing fuel filters on machines like this. So I hope that those of you who are just finding this by happenstance, hope that it's helpful for you, and hopefully you'll join me for what I like to call my little adventure out here, and subscribe and come along for the ride. But yeah, this video isn't for my traditional followers so much as those who just might need a little help. All right, let's see how full we are. And so to see how full you are, you just grab your dipstick. Not hardly at all. We're making progress though. Like I said, I'm pouring from a 2.5 gallon pail here, so it'll be really easy to overfill. Now this thing does have a blow-off tube right here. This is actually a blow-off tube from the engine, so if I overfill it a little bit, we'll be fine. Your machine may not have such a tube, so yeah, you don't want to overfill it for sure. The one thing that you do have working in your favor is that when you fill this full of oil, the oil filter doesn't have oil in it yet, so when you start it, it's going to push oil to that filter and bring your oil level down. Might put a little bit more in before I start it once. Pretty well full. All right, I'm gonna close it up and start it. It's always good to take a peek under the machine just to make sure you're not actively losing your new oil. Start. A little shy of full. That right there, I might put just a bit more in it and call it done. I'll do that off camera. One other good item to do is to help you keep track of service records on these things is to take a paint pen, and I'll also link these below, but this is just a Sharpie paint pen, and it's probably dried out, but we'll see. But on your filter, write when you last changed the oil and the number of hours on the machine, if your machine has an hour counter, so that you know when service was last performed. A lot of times the machine's gonna say service annually or X number of hours. Maybe it's 200, 500, or whatever. I'm guessing most of you are just gonna say we're gonna do it annually, but at the very least, if you do this, you'll at least know when you last serviced it, whether it was the spring or fall. So there I just wrote 12/21 on the top and 1346 are the hours. And if you're smarter than me, you'll write on this before you put it on the machine, but you also may smudge it as you're trying to tighten the filter down. So there you have it, guys. That's how you change the oil in a lawnmower. It's a very simple process. It may not cost much to take your lawnmower out to get it serviced, But if you have to take it and load it in the back of a pickup truck or on a trailer, if you're in the back of a pickup truck, you gotta either lift it up there or using ramps, which is pretty dangerous if it's a garden tractor. So do this at home, save some time, money, have some sense of satisfaction knowing that it got done right. I've seen many cases over the years, especially with vehicles, where an oil filter didn't get tightened enough and basically bled the machine dry of oil. So if you're the one tightening down the filter, you know it's good. If you have questions about anything you saw in the video, please comment below. Love to hear from you and try to help you out if I can. Please do hit that subscribe button and come back and see me sometime. I always love meeting new followers along the way. We'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.